Look how nice. They do this every year for Halloween and Thanksgiving here on this pavilion here. Or gazebo, I guess is a more proper term. I'll be proper. But you know, what's really interesting is these big mums here, big pot of mums, you know, they spend all this money on these and nobody waters them. Hell, if I'd have known they were here, I would have watered them. I didn't know they were here until I just came here now, make a video. So guys, you know, what I find interesting is a vlogger and a writer is how stories come to me. And a lot of times, in fact, most of the time, stories come to me in two ways, either coincidence or accidental. Now, I walk this park a lot. It's in between my places of business and interest here in Beaver, where I go and what I do and what I have to do. And I use this park a lot as a means of a route. And I stumbled upon things. Now, here in this park and in other places here in Beaver, it's very popular to have plaques with people's names on them that are placed at the bottom of these trees that you see here in this park. And I stumbled upon an interesting one, and his name is Roger Netherland. Roger Netherland. Well, it turns out, I was intrigued by what it's written on his plaque, but it turns out that he was a captain, a fighter pilot in the United States Navy, and he lost his life in Vietnam. He was aboard the USS Hancock, and if there's anybody out there in YouTube land that served in the Vietnam War and you served in the United States Navy and you were on the USS Hancock, we would love to hear from you. We would love to hear your comments. I hope that there's somebody out there that can shed some light, because this story is quite fascinating. So I'm going to read you a little bit of something of this man. A Nittany Lion vetted forth a roar of pain as if something vital was being torn from him. In a sense it was, but Penn State's loss proved to be Navy's gain in the form of, he was called Dutch Netherland. He was a player for the Navy. We admire him for his tenacity in sport and school, said one person, and for his taste in the finer things of life, notably women, famous utterances, and mostly for his ability to smile when the chips were down. Captain I'm looking at something. Captain Roger Netherland was the 2nd Regimental Staff, 2nd Set. He graduated from the class of 1948-A, the last of the wartime accelerated classes, in June of 1947. The bottom half of the class was by academic standing, designated 1948B, which he completed in an extra year, and he graduated in June of 1948. Again, he was a captain in the United States Navy as a fighter pilot, and he was aboard the USS Hancock. The photos that you see in the thumbnail, one of them was taken, which was probably identified as, it's debatable, but it could be the last photo we ever have of him engaging the North Vietnamese, which would be his last photo before he was taken out of existence. He was classified as missing in action while flying a mission in the Ha Phong area of North Vietnam when his A4C was shot down. In 1973, he was not amongst the American prisoners of war released, but in September 11th, 1989, his remains were relinquished by the North Vietnamese government, and substantially his remains are placed in Arlington National Cemetery, and that's where he's buried. On May 10th of 1967, VA-94 lost A4C, butt number 149509, and C5W-5 lost its leader, Commander Roger M. Netherland. By the way, this gentleman was born in Rochester. The CAG, as he was called, had launched from Hancock, the USS Hancock, with a section of flak suppressors. Approaching the airfield at Cayenne, near Ha Phong in North Vietnam, Commander Netherland evaded 2 SAMSs, but not the 3rd, which probably exploded under his aircraft and killed him. He might have not been hurt, though, therefore he was unable to prevent his A4 from rolling inverted and hitting the water. He was lost at sea for a while until his, I guess his remains maybe were not in the sea as anticipated, this plaque here will show you differently, but the time that this plaque here that I'm about to show you was placed, he was listed as missing in action. Several years later, his remains were recovered. He was thought to be lost at sea. What's extraordinary is this aircraft that he was on, and I want to just read you some statistics here, man. This is amazing. Originally, this aircraft was in the Pacific Fleet during World War II, and it was massive. It could carry 100 aircraft. I mean, it was like the Nimitz of its day. It was laid down January 26, 1943. It was launched on January 24, 1944. It was commissioned on April 15, 1944. It was decommissioned again on May 9th of 1947. It was recommissioned February 15th of 1954, and it was decommissioned on January 30th, 1976. The displacement is 27,100 long tons. The length of this aircraft was 888 feet. That's longer than the U.S. Steel Building in Pittsburgh. The beam was 93 feet. The draft was 28 feet 7 inches. It had 8 boilers for installed power. The propulsion was 4 times geared steam turbines. The speed was 33 knots, which is about 38 miles per hour, even fully loaded. That's extraordinary. That is just utterly extraordinary. He was on that aircraft carrier. He flew a mission for his country as a fighter pilot and lost his life, buried at Arlington National Cemetery. And the reason why I came upon his story was because of what I seen here. And I just simply got intrigued. And I am not good with researching veterans. I'm getting better at it, but I wasn't all that good. So I reached out to a couple of colleagues who put me in the right direction. And before I knew it, I had links to who this man was, pictures of him, and everything else. But walking in this park, and I always read plaques, I pay very close attention to observations. Anything that sticks out and catches my antennas, I react to it, and this is what I reacted to. In memory of Roger M. Netherland, Captain, United States Navy, lost in action May 10th, 1967. Given by Martha Netherland Chawler, which I believe that was his wife. She's now passed away too, because she is also buried with him at Arlington National Cemetery. But this man lost his life at the age of 41 in Vietnam. He was born in Rochester, but I believe he lived here in Beaver as well. And I just wanted to share his story because I think it's just so unique. And as I said, whenever, stories are right under your nose. And as many times as I walked in this park and I walked past this very tree, I didn't take notice of them right away. And one day, I just happened to see this sticking out of the ground, and I came over here and I read it. And lo and behold, as I said, the greatest and most intriguing stories, guys, are always right under your nose. You just have to look for them. Sometimes you just got to look a little bit harder. And when you do, you stumble upon something like this. I feel that this is a wonderful story, a wonderful attestation, once again, this attestation of Beaver County, Pennsylvania, where there's so many silent stories of veterans who lost their lives and made the ultimate sacrifice. And this is one. Captain Netherland, thank you for your sacrifice and your service, sir. May you rest in peace. You are now home, and I pay tribute to you. This video is in your honor, sir. Thank you. Like I said, guys, there's always a story waiting to be told, and it's mostly in some of the most odd places that you can't even imagine, and I can't think of a better video that I've ever made where that is so expressed so candidly as it is here. All right, guys, I bored you long enough. I'll see you in the next video. I hope you're having a great fall. Everything is wonderfully in place here, so we'll see you in the next one.